broadcasting. Audio is live, video is live, and we are recording. Attendees are joining. So for those who are joining us just now, welcome to the CauseVox webinar on how nonprofits are navigating the coronavirus. We will be getting started shortly in just a few minutes. So make sure you buckle down, get your audio up and running, get a glass of water or a cup of coffee or tea, whatever floats your boat. But we'll be getting started very shortly. But in the meantime, as folks are joining, one question I have for all of you panelists is, what's your number one tip in working remotely?
Well, I'll jump in. I think my number one tip in working remotely is try, if you're in a place where you actually can get outside on a daily basis and just get some fresh air, I think that is hugely important, just in terms of a bit of a sanity check and not feeling that closed-in claustrophobic sensation.
Yeah, well, I'll add on the Amigos side, creating space for community. We're doing things like several of our staff members are yoga instructors, so we're going to do virtual yoga sessions or, virtual happy hours. We've done a couple of those, which have been really fun. Reminds you you're part of a team.
I would say, as somebody who's a parent with a young child trying to work from home, I would say we've tried to structure our days so that both my husband and I can work and take turns watching her. So we've created a schedule, and we're trying to do that every single day to create, kind of a sense of a new normal for our daughter, and to be able to now is mommy time, now is daddy time, and, to balance that out for her and for us, so.
Definitely, and I would add, get those webcams out and working. It really does help to see people and interact with them visually instead of just on the phone. So that's been very helpful this week since we've been remote. I guess this is day 4 of remote working for our team. So we're still learning some of the best practices to do all of this.
Yeah, those are some great tips. I think the webcam helps a lot, just so you don't feel like you're all alone. But I guess one tip is just to stick to a routine as well. I've been trying to wake up at a certain hour and then have breakfast and go to work, which is my dining table, and then I have my workout time, and then I just repeat that. So who knows how long this thing will last. Well, great. So I think the audience is on. People are still joining as we speak, but we are at the top of the hour, so I just want us to get started. So welcome everybody to the CauseVox webinar on how to navigate the coronavirus, or how nonprofits are navigating the coronavirus. So we're super excited to have all of you join us today. You're on with several different organizations. I spoke to each one of these folks. They are amazing in terms of the work they do, as well as the insights that they're happy to share with you today in terms of how their organization is navigating this whole pandemic that we're having. So we have a ton of folks over here, but before I introduce our speakers today, just want to be mindful of a few things in terms of housekeeping. One is that this webinar is being recorded. So if you enjoy this webinar after the fact, or if you have to hop off because of a different call or something, feel free to. You will get a recording and a link to this by the end of the day today. So look out for that in your inboxes. The other thing to be mindful of is that we are doing this as a webinar format. So at this point in time, you should be able to see me on your screen, as well as a slide with all of our great speakers that we're having. In addition to that, you should be able to hear me speak as well. If you're having trouble, feel free to ping me directly. I am Rob Wu. You'll find me as the host, and I'll be happy to help you navigate through that. Actually, today I'm Candace Cody, because Candace, who organized this webinar, decided to flee to North Carolina from New York because she wanted to get out. So therefore, I am hosting this. So find Candace Cody, ping her, and that's me, and I'll be happy to sort you out. Well, without further ado, welcome to the webinar, How Nonprofits Are Navigating the Coronavirus. This is a panelist format. We'll go on for about 45 minutes or so, let's say, And then I want to make sure we have enough time for some questions. So some Q&A from your amazing panelists. So I just want to go down and have all of our speakers first introduce themselves. Jenny, why don't you start?
Sure. Hello to everyone, wherever you are calling in from today. I'm Jenny Claycomb. I'm the Director of Development, Fundraising at an organization called Amigos de las Americas. We're based out of Houston, but have a pretty remote team all throughout the Western Hemisphere. And so we are working right now actually in a lot of contingency planning as we have pivoted from normal programming. So I've been with the organization about 2.5 years, have a master's in nonprofit management and public administration, and have spent my professional career working in outreach, either in fundraising or another relationship building within the university. So glad we all are able to have this conversation today.
Great, thank you. April.
Hey everyone, my name's April Hearn. I'm the Managing Director of Operations at Amigos. I work very closely with Jenny. I am an Amigos alum myself, so you know, it's definitely was a difficult decision as we recently announced to suspend our program operations. Yeah, I'm happy to be here today, and I think in these times, community is more important than ever. So happy to provide a space for that, and thanks to CosVox and Rob for facilitating.
Thank you. Let's go to Kelly.
Hey everybody, glad to be here. I'm Kelly McLaughlin. I am the Director of Marketing and Development for the Old Greenbelt Theater. We are a small nonprofit cinema based in Greenbelt, Maryland, right outside of Washington, D.C. And we made the very difficult decision to close our theater down, to not risk being a site of transmission last Friday. But obviously our operations look very different being closed since we rely on the revenue we get from people visiting our theater and coming to the movies. So we're navigating that. We also are seen as an important community resource and a site for creation of community in the DC suburbs. And so we were looking to find ways to continue to play that role in our community even while we're closed.
Great, thank you. And Judith.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here with you to learn more than anything. My name is Judith Scott. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Queensway Carleton Hospital Foundation. As you can imagine, we're pretty much at the forefront of this entire situation that we're all dealing with. Our hospital serves, it's an acute care population that we serve, and so clearly we're aligning ourselves as best we can to keep continuing to support the messaging that we do. I've been involved with this organization for the past 10 years. I have a lot of family members who are healthcare professionals, both physicians and nurse professionals, and so this is a way for me in a non-clinical way to really be part of that same mission of inspiring philanthropy for the benefit of our hospital and our organization.
Great, thank you. And lastly, for me, I am Rob Wu, CEO and founder of CosVox. CosVox is a digital fundraising platform for nonprofits. Essentially, you can use this to raise funds online. We're super excited to help organizations not only declunkify their fundraising software, but also just to organize some of these educational experiences, especially in this time when it feels like we just dropped off a cliff and we don't know what to do. So I'm really excited just to help bring out some insights, deliver that to nonprofits so that they can continue furthering their missions as well as increasing their fundraising as well. So without further ado, I'm gonna actually stop talking about CosVox real fast and go to our panelists. So the first question I have for all of you is, since the coronavirus pandemic, what has changed at your nonprofit? What's different? This is an obvious question. What's different? What's changed? How are you adapting when it comes to your staff and your programs? Why don't we start with Amigos? Because I know April and Jenny, I saw an email from you all very recently about your program. So I'd love to learn what has changed.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So Amigos announced on Monday that for the first time in our 55-year history, we've made this very difficult decision to suspend our summer program operations. So really, given that we won't be operating programs this summer in Latin America, for some context, we send between 700 and 800 students to Latin America for intensive cultural immersion programs and service programs, and primarily they work with host families in rural communities. And so because we won't be operating those programs, we're really in a pivot moment for Amigos, and figuring out how we can work with our volunteers to continue to really carry out the Amigos mission virtually and from home. And more than anything, Amigos is a mindset. Our values really carry with alumni throughout their lives. So we're working to work with current volunteers to enact those same principles and values in a different way this year.
And I think if April shared something that might be helpful if people are facing the same situation right now, is that we made a communication plan, and very much kudos to her and our communications team. We have so many stakeholders that you have to update, and these things are moving so drastically. So I think what's really important to understand is who are your stakeholders, who need to be updated first, what's that sequence to make sure that everyone feels part of this decision. And we always talk about our Amigos family and community, and we really believe that, and we want everyone to understand what's going on within an organization that they care deeply about. So any recommendations to someone else who's dealing with this or might be facing this decision in the next couple of weeks, is really make sure you understand when these decisions come up and how you communicate them, that you're doing it in an order that is appropriate for who your stakeholders are.
Yeah, so Kelly, I received an email from the old Greenbelt Theater as well, changing their programs. So what was that decision-making process like with how your stakeholders were in that process, similar to what Jenny was saying?
Yeah, so we we're in the same position as a lot of arts and cultural organizations are right now, that we needed to close our facility to not be a site of spread, but that we still, we rely on the income we get from people coming to the Newbies and purchasing concessions and all that kind of stuff. And so we felt, we wanted to create one line of programming that we could potentially draw revenue from, maybe in a different way. And then we thought through our different constituencies and just really thought about what is that constituency going to be dealing with right now. So we set up a couple of programs. One, the one we set up to actually be kind of a revenue generation source was our Flick of the Week, where we're picking a film that's available to stream on multiple streaming platforms and sending a recommendation. And then we're creating opportunities for people who sign up for that and pay $10 to interact with our staff, our film experts, that kind of thing, to engage with our community. Because one of the things when we announced our closure was so many people in our community reached out and said, well, are your staff going to be okay? Are you guys going to be able to still pay your staff? We want to make sure, which really is a credit to, I think we've spent a lot of time building really strong connections with our community. And so it was really lovely to actually see that outpouring at such an interesting time, was that the community was concerned about us and how we would survive this. So we created that as a way to say, like, if you want to support us, still come to the movies, but come virtually. And then we have created free online programming for different constituencies. Most of our staff were all parents, and so we know that parents are dealing with how do we entertain kids at home. So we've curated a lot of, this week, for example, we curated a number of experimental animation that you can find on YouTube, so kids could see different forms of animation online, and then put together a craft where they could create their own animation flip book. And so we're still engaging them. We do a lot of educational programming for kids, and so that was a way to keep that programming going remotely and hopefully provide some relief for parents. And then the other thing we did is we created we have a very popular Monday Matinees program where we provide a free screening of a classic Hollywood film for seniors, and it's really seen by seniors in our community as a way to get out and be in the community, and our staff is always downstairs interacting with the seniors. And so what we've done for that constituency, since they're maybe a little less tech savvy than everybody else, and we didn't feel like Facebook or video conferences was necessarily the way to go with them, we created a conference call line and suggest a movie, a classic film that maybe they've seen, that we're doing a call once a week with our senior population to talk about that film. So we've really tried to think through our stakeholders and what they're needing at this time, which is, you know, for parents, some activities for their kids to do independently, and for seniors, some ability to engage while they're, you know, sheltering in place.
Yeah, I think that sounds amazing, where your staff was able to adapt and change programming very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an interesting idea, how kind of adapting to an environment instead of having to postpone or restructure something too much and wait for something to happen. So I would love to hear, you know, Judith or April or Jenny, kind of, have you all seen a similar ability of your organizations to do that, or how far along are you in that process of adapting, if that's something that is necessary?
Yeah, I'd love to jump in here, Rob. So I think one of the things that we recognized very quickly, being a hospital foundation, is that the best way that we could support a lot of our own stakeholders was really through providing some of those key, information. I mean, that's the critical piece that so many people are looking for. It's what do I do if? What do I need to know? And without being clinicians ourselves, we certainly have a conduit, and we have access to understanding information, and where can it be garnered from, and how do we, essentially what we thought we should do right off the bat was really provide, kind of be a warm hug, if you will, kind of a virtual hug, to reach out to a lot of the people that we already connect with. And both Kelly and Jenny have touched on that creative piece and that communicate piece. And I think I would add in there, some of it is, a lot of it has to do with coordinating, and a lot of it has to do with connecting. And I think those pieces, if we keep all of them top of mind, will help us be fluid. I mean, that's the real challenge for all of us, is we've all set plans in motion. We've either finished our year end or we're going into a new fiscal year for our operations. And so we've got a lot of strategies that we thought we had in place, and some things in our own organization we look at and go, oh, isn't it a coincidence that we had this marketing, vision for next year, and all of a sudden we're enacting it? But that's not all of a sudden, regardless of the circumstance and how much we're all having to do a pivot shift. If we're mindful of what our mission is for our organization, there are some things we should always have in place that allow us to be agile, allow us to be flexible, and certainly not be afraid to be curious. I think is one of the greatest assets we all have as fundraisers, is that I think without question we're all in the space where we're in a continuous learning curve, and I think that's paramount for everybody.
Yeah, I really love kind of what you mentioned about giving folks a virtual hug. Like, that's a way to engage and communicate. So I think all of the organizations today as panelists, I've heard you engage with your audiences already. For the folks who are on as attendees today, what would you recommend to them if they haven't communicated with their stakeholders or their donors or whoever they are already in this environment?
I would jump in with just, I think right now we're seeing our role, I mean, ours in particular, I think you got to think about the role your organization plays in the community that you serve. And for us, we're a community gathering place. We're a place where seniors can get out and enjoy the company of others, and where families bring kids because they know we have these great programs that are going to be thoughtful. And so kind of thinking through that role that we play in our community, we felt like, our role here is to continue to make people feel connected. And our role here is to, I think, kind of project some calm within the storm, and, make our community know, like, we're still here. We're still going to talk about movies because we need movies right now. And and the role we're serving. So we actually changed our marquee yesterday. We're at old cinema. We were built in the 1930s, so we've got one of those really fancy old marquees, and the marquee right now says social distancing can't stop community. And we've been posting that online, and we've been using that as a hashtag, and people have really, really resonated with that. And again, we're putting our staff on social media. We're doing Facebook Live. We're doing things like that. That's being able to say, you know, hey, we're here and we love you guys and we're going to be here. And so we're really trying to play the role of, you know, creating calm and creating a place for our community to still gather.
Yeah, and I think a piece of advice would be, know that people don't expect you to have all of the answers. I mean, we're just seeing how quickly this whole situation is moving. And so waiting to maybe have all the answers is not, I would say it's probably not the right strategy to have. And our communities, I think, understand that. And the more transparent and honest we can be about what's going on, the better it is. And so open sharing like we're doing right here and having honest conversations is a good standpoint for fundraisers, but I think for the organization, but particularly for fundraising. And this is also an opportunity to bring people closer, to have conversations about how can we get creative with programming. I mean, we're hopeful that we'll be able to do something to advance our mission over the next few months in place of the traditional summer programming. So we're excited to brainstorm those opportunities. And certainly if there's a role that Amigos can play, we will want to do that. And so that's also an opportunity for engagement, both for fundraising and then, you know, to serve our mission.
Yeah, I think one of the points in addition to that that Jenny mentioned, it's about connecting not just with our donors and our stakeholders, but certainly connecting with our counterparts as well. What are our other people who work in the same space as us? How are they, you know, we're all empathetic about what we're dealing with, and how do we share that load, and how do we share that strategy, and what is going to help us in the long run all come from a place where we're finding solutions collaboratively.
Yeah, so it sounds like a big part of how nonprofits are navigating this right now is adapting and creating new programs is one big thing. To looking forward to seeing how they can, what kind of programs and mission areas can be focused on past this initial spring period. And then 3 is really engaging and connecting with your stakeholders, with your supporters, with your board members in a way to be responsive and empathetic to the situation at hand. So I think that's amazing. Now, I think Jenny alluded to a few things in terms of the fundraising side. So I'd love to kind of shift this conversation a little bit. So every single day at CauseWise, we get nonprofits saying, hey, my gala is canceled, or my event is canceled. We need to do something else. Like our playbook doesn't work anymore. Jenny, I'd love to hear, Jenny as well, Judith, I'd love to hear from both of you about kind of how has the recent events really changed your fundraising plans and playbook for the year?
I can go first, Judith, if that works. So it's changed a lot for Amigos. So our traditional fundraising appeals to our communities to help support our programs and also help with accessibility via financial assistance program. And since we've suspended programs, I mean, that makes our mission a little bit different. So we've had to, you know, rethink what value we give and how we sustain our programs, you know, through this trying time. So, but when you think about it in that way, our mission hasn't changed and the work we're going to still work towards has not changed. So I think getting over that little hump is actually an exciting opportunity because we are going to be challenged to rethink what we can do for our mission over the next few months or however long we're going to be in this situation. We are facing some questions about events that we've planned, and we have had to postpone smaller events in the past month. And we do have a gala coming up in September in San Francisco that we're also doing some contingency planning for, which I think is very important. Anyone who's planned galas or events, they're obviously require finances and expenses that you want to be thinking about in a time, especially if you're looking at cutting expenses. And so we haven't made a decision yet about our gala in September, but we are contingency planning, which is, I think, is a smart thing to do so that we're ready when we do need to pivot, that we have options to do so. So we are going to be fundraising, and we're going to try to do things to advance our mission. And our community, I feel very strongly, is going to be behind us in doing that. And they will understand, you know, that the situation is out of our control, and that our mission is still important, and they want to see us succeed.
Yeah, I think I could add into that, Rob. I mean, it's very much, we have a very traditional donor base. It's a hospital that serves an aging community in many respects. So we're very mindful that traditional programs, direct mail programs, have always been really a backbone of a lot of the work that we do. That doesn't change that strategy. That continues. Obviously, we know that those are supporters that contribute to us through those means because that's what they're most comfortable with. Certainly, with respect to the events and face-to-face events, we've had to postpone an awful lot of those. So how do we layer in over the course of the year other opportunities to garner not just revenue from those events, but how do we ensure that we can still build relationships in a different way? We rely on donor tours through the hospital. Clearly, that's not something we can do at the moment, but we can start augmenting some of the other platforms. And obviously, not because it's just a plug for you, Rob, but certainly things that CauseFox has to offer insofar as providing that sort of a digital interface that allows people to fundraise in a different way. I think that'll be paramount for us. I think what it's done for us more than anything, it is not going to negate what we've always done and what we will continue to do, but it has kind of made us sit up and pay attention and go, we thought we might implement this somewhere down the line, and now it's been a little more of a push to say, okay, we really have to wrap our arms around what that means for us as an organization moving forward. The other thing that we've done just in trying to ready ourselves for that before we're sort of ready to hit the market that way, if you will, is in our regular contact with donors. So for example, I imagine between all my colleagues in the office right now, we've probably made a few hundred phone calls to our donors on an ongoing basis just to say, you know, we're here, we understand, this is what we're doing, how we're working right now, and, you know, we want to be able to share with them not just by mail, but maybe by email and other means as well. So we're asking them to share addresses with us perhaps that they haven't shared in the past, and we're finding that that's opening up, just broadening our base and engaging with people the way we might be able to just expand on that.
Yeah, so it sounds like one of the key ideas is to, Judith, from your aspect, is kind of using this time instead of making a hard ask and doing a tour or anything like that. First, adapting to more digital means, but then secondly, at this time at least, focusing more on the donor engagement. Is that kind of like a good direction, especially because like I think a lot of organizations don't know if it's right to ask for a donation from their donors right now. So I would love to hear kind of your ideas. Like, is that kind of what you're trying to solve with this approach?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question, one that we are probably all faced with. Is it really right for us to be asking for money right now, given the circumstance that we're in? And so I think what we know that we can do is we reach out to our donors. We talk about the impact that we've had in the past and the reason that they have an affinity for us. I think we're engaged in conversations with them more than anything. Is there an opportunity? We would never want to negate providing a platform where they might want to make a donation if they're in a position that they can do that. But we certainly recognize that first and foremost, about collectively knowing we're all in this space together, and so we have to be respectful, particularly respectful, I think, right now, of how we're reaching out to donors and how we're, how we might frame their ability to make a contribution for us. I think impact is key always for all of us. I think just that education piece and keeping everybody informed is critical.
Yeah. So Kelly, I'd love to hear kind of when it comes to your fundraising playbook for the year, especially as you all have been able to stand up some new programs very quickly. Are you thinking about changing how you all do fundraising, focusing more effort on different areas? What's going on over there?
Yeah, actually, So it's been interesting because we were gearing up for a huge membership campaign that we felt like we needed to put on hold because we're not open, and memberships give you discounts when you come to the cinema. And so it's been difficult trying to decide how we're going to move that forward. The interesting thing that we noticed from our community, and I think we're trying to do this in consultation with our community really, is when we actually announced that we were closing, we didn't ask for any money. We didn't say support us or anything. And we received just an overwhelming number of gifts. Tons of people renewed their memberships. They renewed their memberships at our premium levels rather than our lower levels. And that kind of said to us that our community is ready to be there for us, which was, you know, a lovely message because we were ready to just not ask for anything. Yeah, so it's gotten us thinking about that spring drive. Where we originally were like, well, we're going to shut it down and we'll just see what happens. But we're thinking about reopening it and making it more of a we want to be here for you. Can you be here for us? And reinforcing that, you know, like I said, we're a community resource. That's the role we play, is being a place for our community to come together. And so being mindful of that, realizing that that's a way we can move our spring drive forward as a, you know, can you do this? And being respectful and noting that we know a lot of you can't right now or are worried about your revenue streams. And so we're not expecting everybody to renew their memberships right now. So we're not going to do, normally we do quite a hard email push and it's in our weekly emails, and we do call campaigns and all of that kind of stuff to all of our expired members and anybody who's going to expire in the next few months. And, you know, we're really going to dial that back to be respectful of where people are right now. But we want the messaging to be, you know, we're going to be here for you. And if you can be here for us, that's awesome. And that's how we're going to navigate this new reality together. And so, yeah, I mean, luckily we just finished a giant capital campaign. So we wrapped that up in January. And so we're glad we're not still trying to close out a capital campaign in the middle of all of this. But yeah, it's thrown a lot of our programs up in jeopardy. We were supposed to be opening a new space in June. We don't know if that will happen. We were supposed to be launching a whole new wing of programming, educational programming. We don't know if we're going to be able to do that. But yeah, we've been trying to figure out what are creative ways to do this. The other thing we have done that's gone quite well actually has been, again, we rely on income we get from tickets and concession sales. So we've set up our donation page, and I can screen share it with everybody if you'd like to see it. But we've set up our donation page to basically say, could you donate what you would pay for a night at the movies? So whether that's just a ticket or our concessions combo or for a date night or a family night. And then we've really been pushing, could you sign up to make it weekly? So what you would spend at the movies weekly or monthly, depending on how often you come to us. Could you make a donation of those tickets or whatever you'd be spending at the movies while we're closed? And people have really responded to that very nicely. And we've gotten a number of people who've signed up to do $6.50 a week through the end of May for us. And so that's been, it's been a really, again, it's a light ask, but it's been something that's easier for people to say yes to, is these small amounts weekly that they know they can stop at any time.
Yeah, that's great. I love the kind of how you have like different tiers, and then it's a soft ask, especially in this time where a hard ask may not be appropriate. So I think that's a great tactic. From the Amigo side, for Jenny and April, I'm wondering what kind of digital tactics are you all adopting over there now, especially because of how the programming has changed?
Yeah, I could speak to that for just a minute. Or Jenny, did you want to?
Go for it.
Okay, great. So I could actually, I could do a quick screen share if that works. Let me give that a shot, just a second. All right. All right, can folks see the screen? Yes. Okay, great. So yeah, so just a couple of digital tips and tricks that we've adopted and that we've also seen some of the other organizations in our space adopt. So this is our announcement of our summer program closure, and it's really formatted as an open letter to our community from our CEO Sarah Nathan, which I think adds a personal touch. And then another thing we've done just digitally is, if you guys can see this bar up top linking to the update about how coronavirus is affecting our programs. We've seen a lot of folks do that, and I think that's really handy because the first question in everyone's mind right now is, how is your organization or your business being, your nonprofit being affected by what's going on in the world? So just making that information really, really accessible. In terms of communications, we released this open letter both on our site and then across social media, and we've kind of gone dark for the moment, and starting next week we'll be launching a video series, starting with a video from our CEO, which really is intended to give kind of the personal, authentic touch to our messaging right now, and let folks hear from the source and connect to Amigos personally, and especially our alumni community. We have over 30,000 alumni over the years we've been in operation, and I think that personal touch will go a long way for them. And then Jenny, I don't know if you wanted to speak about some of the other communications planned and how that the digital approach factors into that.
Sure, yeah, and similar to Kelly, we're going to launch, or we're going to still launch it, but just change the messaging a little bit. We are going to be trying, we've been trying for a number of cycles now to just keep promoting the idea of peer-to-peer fundraising, since we do have such a strong alumni base. Getting people excited and motivated, and actually knowing that they can go and create a CauseVox page. So we use CauseVox. Currently, our volunteers themselves can fundraise before their experience, their exchange and service experience. And then our board members fundraise, staff, and then anyone else obviously who wants to. So we're trying to build really, a movement around this and momentum for it. So prior to COVID-19, we have been working on a May and June, we call it Alumni Anniversary campaign. So we still want to launch that in May and June, but we're obviously going to think through the messaging a little bit more and be gracious and understanding that this is just a trying time. But we do want to bring this opportunity to the forefront if alumni haven't been thinking about it. So we are going to move forward with that campaign. And certainly, who knows what next week's going to bring, but we're going to be sensitive and monitor the situation and just adjust as needed.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think a lot of organizations right now, some people are kind of chatting them in, also just questions and that I've been getting elsewhere is that people are postponing. They're thinking that, hey, by June or July, this whole thing will blow over. While that may not be the case, especially from what we're hearing from the CDC in the States, as well as our government. So I would love to understand from the panelist's opinion today, is it better to anticipate, let's say, a postponement of your spring appeal or a spring in-person event to the summertime? Or is it better to say, hey, that's a wash, that may not happen, and we need to stand something up that's online or something else very quickly? Opinions, I'd love to hear.
I would jump in here and just say we've, since we announced our facility closure, we've been trying to call everybody who's been donating to us. Just, we normally try and call and thank all of our donors, but we're a small operation, so sometimes it doesn't always happen. But we've been calling everybody down to the person who gave us $2 the other day, just to get their pulse and see where they are and see how they're feeling about things, and really using that as a way, as kind of a yardstick to figure out what we should do next. Because we really want to be considerate and thinking about where everybody is right now. So I would say that's been the most helpful thing I think I've done in the past week, is just taking the time to really call. And right now everybody's answering their phones because they're at home. And so it's, you know, normally I would call 10 donors and talk to 2 maybe. Today I called 10 donors and I spoke to every single one of them. And that's been just so incredibly helpful to hear where they are, and I'm asking for their feedback, and I'm asking for, you know, why did you make this donation, and all of that kind of stuff, because all of that is so helpful in figuring out our strategy moving forward for the next few months.
I think I would share, I'd share Kelly's sentiment that way for sure. I think, you know, the notion that we're getting people on the phone, there's no doubt about that. It is an outreach for us that we have ramped up probably more than we would normally do. And I think that's been really valuable, because when we think, you know, oh, I don't know what kind of a reaction I'm going to get to this, but it's absolutely been overwhelming that way. So we are not thinking about canceling some of our spring and summer appeals. I think it's more about the message and being very deliberate about what is the message that's in those appeals versus canceling. If we are carrying this period into the next 6 months, then we just have to be mindful that they're still donors of ours. People are still loyal. There's a reason that they give to the hospital, and that we have to keep that line of communication open. So I think it's more about you know, we have to be very selective about how we're connecting with our donors, and ensure that it's just making our strategies much more laser-like, I think, in a lot of ways. So we're having to go what we might have done before without thinking as hard about. We're really being very thoughtful about that right now. I heard one phrase this week that, you know, really fits the bill in our case. And it's about, you know, if you're making cuts, you're doing it with a scalpel, not an axe. And I mean, I think that's just so important to understand that, you know, it's not sticking your head in the sand and saying either do nothing or let's just do away with things we know have been successful in the past. But it is about, you know, being really deliberate about what the next steps are going to be for your organization. In an unfortunate way, it speaks to organizational sustainability and resilience. And I think that's a really key component of what's going on all around us, and will be, and kind of highlights why the work we do as part of the mission and part of what we serve is as important in terms of ensuring that we'll still be there in 10 or 15 years from now to have that kind of impact.
Yeah, absolutely. So Judith, what kind of virtual or digital type of fundraising activities are you planning for the next 3 to 6 months?
Yeah, so we're really looking at trying to leverage some of the platforms that are out there, and first of all, with some of those people who are nearest and dearest to us. So our donors that we know well, donors who we engage with typically at events, and certainly just we're all working with boards of directors. And so we believe that could be a starting point for us. There's an opportunity for us to just have them be the owners of their own kind of crowdfunding campaign that might encourage other people to share where they're at, share what they're feeling, why they're part of our organization, and what they want to do to help, and how they might have their own friends learning to help with that. So that's kind of a, you know, in a way, it's an ungala gala, if you will, kind of trying to do something virtually that way. So, and we're in that exploratory stage for sure, but it's a conversation I believe that will move forward.
Now, I'll just add there. So, you know, I think as we move deeper into either self or mandated quarantine throughout the country, we're such a social species. We're all really going to begin more and more to crave our connection with others. And I think the cool thing about where we are in this moment in history is that we get to do that through technology. The fact that there are currently, you know, 311 people on this call, we're all talking about how we're doing and what our plans are. It's really powerful. And that can apply to the part of fundraising that's about creating community and connection. And I think, you know, especially the CauseVox platform, some of the updates they've been rolling out recently around, you know, messaging features or the ability for fundraisers to post updates. I think that can all be really powerful as you engage your larger community to come together for your shared goal and for the continuation of something you all have believed in for a long time. So it's really cool that digital in this moment is more powerful as a community building tool really than probably it's ever been in history.
I would piggyback on that as somebody working at an organization with a lot of seniors. picking up the phone and calling them right now. They're so grateful for that interaction. I know a lot of them, when I called, were very, very grateful because they're worried about going anywhere. And so I think also being cognizant that there are people who aren't going to engage online, but finding ways, like I said, we're doing a conference call to talk about a classic film next week, so that, you know, the people who have no idea how to get on Facebook can still be engaged with us. And I think that's a unique challenge we face with a primarily senior population, but something to think about is also how you're going to engage, you know, older donors who maybe aren't in those virtual spaces.
Yeah, that's a great point. The Amigos is a youth leadership organization, so we have the benefit of most of our stakeholders being digital natives, which is helpful in times like this.
Yeah, so I would love to understand, maybe since I think all of you have some digital experience or moving towards that, for the folks on as attendees today, and what's your number one tip along the lines of when someone enters into, if your organization is doing digital for the first time, or virtual fundraising or internet fundraising, what's your number one tip for these organizations right now?
I'll jump in there because we're relatively new to it, and I think honestly, more than anything, it's just don't be afraid to explore, be curious, educate yourself, reach out to as many different organizations as you can that are providing different kinds of platform, and lean on the success of others and how they've engaged digital platforms in a way that has really helped them reach different audiences and reach their existing audiences in new ways. I think it's for us, it really is that. It's don't back off.
Yeah, I would second that. I think it can be intimidating to get started, but the resources available to ramp up on, you know, digital fundraising are really quite extensive. So just jump in, and the user interface and the ease of which you can get peer-to-peer fundraising going is really good now. It's improved a lot in the last few years. So I'd say just jump in, you know, and seek help where you need it.
I think my other tip would be, we're part of a group called the Art House Convergence. So it's lots of art house cinemas across the country. And we're not competitors because we're sprinkled all over the country, but that's been a great place for us to centralize an idea share, and that organization itself is trying to organize some digital campaigns that then we can all piggyback off of. And so, you know, doing something where, you know, most of these independent cinemas, we have membership programs. And so if we're all messaging, the way to help us is to become members, join your local art house cinema. If we're all saying that, we're all using the same hashtags, then that's another way to help, like, all of us rise together. So that's the other thing we're focused on is, you know, we are not the only art house cinema closed in the country. Every single one is closed right now. And so we're not going this alone. We're reaching out to other organizations that are in the same situation and helping them, having them help us, and trying to rise all together in kind of, you know, in the hashtag trending world. And we're more powerful together than we are when we're alone. So that's something we're relying on as other organizations in our space.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kelly. So for the rest of our time today, we have about 12 minutes. I'd love to open it up to the audience. You know, we have 300 something folks still on with us. If you have any questions for our panelists today, feel free to use the Q&A function to put those in right now, or use the chat function. I'll be sure to curate those and ask those of our panelists. So while our audience is doing that, I do have one question. I'm not sure there's an answer to this. So I'm in the mindset that we're headed into a recession. So there was a report that came out, something that said that there's 80% chance we're heading into a recession. So that's one big scary thing that's going to happen. The other big scary thing to me in terms of metrics is that 280,000 people filed for unemployment-like benefits this last week. So that's very scary to me as well, since we'll see unemployment rates go up. what is the best way for a nonprofit, so whether it's programming or it's fundraising, to what do you want to keep in mind as these two trends come closer to our missions? Any kind of tips or any advice for our audience today?
I think something that's important for fundraisers to remember in trying times like this, because we're facing down situations where these asks, and we've already talked about it, how do they feel? Or are they right? Or should we be doing this? I mean, I think we're all questioning that, and that's the right thing to do. But what we shouldn't forget is that we need things to serve our mission, right? So what we need, we might be able to take that scalpel to it instead of the ask, but we still need things. And if we don't tell people what we need, they don't know, right? And so we just have to remember that and not be afraid, I think, to ask, even if times get a lot tougher. And that's our job, and that's what we're here for. And philanthropy is a really important part of the economy and serving communities in need and services that aren't provided. So we can't be afraid to tell people what we need for our organizations. And I think we just need to be careful in how we do it and sensitive. But we can't forget why we're here and what we do as fundraisers. So that's my mindset, or what I'm going to take over the next few months.
I think for us, we're just focused on diversity and in our outreach and in our ways of trying to drive revenue. As we're just trying to make sure, we have this program that we're going to charge for, and this one that's free, and we're going to try and drive memberships, and we're going to try and do donations. And it's good fundraising advice always, is to have diverse sources of revenue. And so I think continuing, not assuming they're all drying up, maybe we just have to look at them, each revenue stream individually, and how do I get creative about this, and how do I get creative about this? And I think that's what we're looking at right now is okay, our general donation program, this is how it normally is, how does it need to be right now? But still not saying, okay, we're not doing that anymore, we're just going to do this. I think we're still looking at how do we keep the diversity of all of our revenue streams going right now.
Fantastic. So I love kind of the aspect of working on now, making sure your tone is appropriate, as well as the communication is appropriate to the audience. So our first question from our audience, from Nicole, this is something more tactical, which I think would be interesting to ask, is when you're engaging your donors right now on a phone or through email, or what kind of questions are you asking, in how you're structuring that conversation when you're engaging with your donors today?
I guess.
I think I can jump in. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Judith.
I think what we're doing first and foremost is it's a call of gratitude. It's a call of gratitude to our donors to say thank you for being with us along the way, as you have been in the past, and really sharing that thankfulness with them first and foremost. Amazingly, that just opens up a conversation pretty easily with most people, and they're, how are you doing? And my response is, I'm working at home the same way a lot of you are, and we're navigating it, not just day by day, but hour by hour, obviously. And so I think it is that shared, spirit of understanding that is critical.
Yeah, I would echo what Judith said. I'm opening with just thank you so much. We're just floored that you're still giving in this time. We're so grateful. But yeah, I just started out with how are you doing? And that really opens up the floodgates for people right now. Like I said, especially seniors that I'm calling that are not getting a lot of engagement right now. Just being that person that's there to listen. And like I said, I'm getting a lot of information from it of people's priorities and how they're doing and how they're feeling, and what we're putting out is resonating, and what's, so far I haven't gotten any feedback that any of it's off-putting, so fingers crossed that continues. But yeah, how are you doing right now is just a big question that people are very happy to answer.
Awesome. We have another question from our audience about this pivot to more online fundraising. Christina is asking if if any of y'all are concerned about kind of moving more into digital events or online events with a donor base that's older or not, tend not to respond well to technology. I guess this is probably more of a question for Kelly and Judith.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think when we sat down, we thought about our different programs that we run in person. And we thought about, okay, so our Monday matinees, it's on Monday at 1 p.m. It's mostly seniors. So what is a way we can replace that program? And how are we going to reach those people? And so we decided on a conference call because that's an easy thing to do. We also, a lot of that population gets their movie times from the local newspaper. So we're putting an ad in our local newspaper to say, hey, watch this movie and then call us Monday at 1 p.m. Here's the conference call line in the ad, because they've always relied on us for that information in the newspaper. And so that's where we're going to keep engaging them. So I think it's important to think about as we take, you know, virtual spaces. I think a lot of us younger folks think virtual spaces, oh, that means the internet. But it doesn't have to mean the internet. And so if you're thinking about older folks, and again, that's why we're calling all of our donors too, because they've gone the extra mile to donate online, which is maybe something they're not super comfortable with. So I'm going to call them because I'm not sure they got our email and I'm not sure they've read it or know what to do with it. And so I want to call and follow up. And so that's what we've done. I mean, it was the same with our kids programming. I'm a parent that doesn't like to do a lot of screen time. So we're thinking about, okay, how do we provide activities that, you know, kids are probably going to be on screens a lot right now. So how do we still engage them in ways that's maybe offline, but that we can still push out digitally? So, I mean, it requires a lot of creativity, but I think if you think about what is this program, who does it serve, how do we reach them right now, that can answer a lot of your questions on how to move that program into a virtual space.
Yeah, I think to jump in really quickly with that, I mean, we have obviously a population that is aging in our community, but we serve all ages, and we have, you know, children bringing parents in for appointments. We still have moms having babies at the hospital. So a good piece of that is about reaching them through social media and understanding that the route may take a little bit longer for some of them to get there, but they are also sharing links. You know, people are using iPads for Facebook and communicating with multi-generations. So that is an opportunity for us as well to go, okay, so maybe we didn't have something that might be a virtual tour of a section of our hospital that we couldn't do before, but now we can do that. And it's a shared learning for everybody. And for sure, I will have children of my own who will show me things that way. And it's a good chance just to expand that network.
Awesome. Let me see. We have time for one more question. So I think this is kind of interesting because today we still haven't talked about where does the board fit into this whole picture over here. Can you talk to the audience today about board members? How are they fitting into the programming, the navigating through kind of programmatic changes, as well as any type of fundraising? Very quickly.
Sure. I mean, from the decision standpoint, I mean, they were engaged with our CEO and the team that was making the decision about programs throughout that whole process, and certainly they should be there from their, you know, governance and fiduciary standpoint. But then, as far as fundraising, you know, activate them. They are our best cheerleaders and advocates and fans of our mission. So, you know, put them to work. Like, you know, they can make phone calls. Also, they're probably at home. They can call other people. It's a great opportunity and time for engagement. So put them to work, and we have our board members that have, you know, reacted always very well to helping us. So I'd say nothing's really changed in that regard.
Yeah, I think our executive director sent an email to our board that was like, y'all need to be on email, checking your email constantly, answering quickly, because things are changing so quickly. And so we kind of put our board on notice that we're going to need quick answers. And yeah, I think the other thing, we've relied on their unique skill sets too. I mean, we have a lawyer on our board who's reviewing all our insurance policies right now, and that kind of thing to see, you know, are there revenue streams there? You know, I think thinking through like, why is this person on your board? What skill set do they bring, and how can they help uniquely in this situation can also help, because as we're thinking about how do our team members navigate this, we're thinking about the board in that way too.
Yeah, I think really quickly that's key. I mean, we have board members obviously who are entrepreneurs, they're business leaders in the community. So leveraging their skill sets and really understanding what they're going to be facing in the upcoming months is going to be key in terms of what we can do as an organization. And at the very fundamental level, understanding you know, that they are also invested in the success of our organization and will be willing to, we take advantage of that and what they can bring to the table. And we have our board members making thank you donor calls all the time. It's key in terms of their own engagement.
Awesome, thanks so much. So I think we're at time at 3 o'clock Eastern. So I just want to do a quick round robin in terms of our panelists today. First, thank you so much for all of your time and insights today to our audience. But I'd love to hear just very quickly, starting with Kelly, you know, what's the one tip you can give to a nonprofit that you haven't said anything about to help them navigate through this crisis?
I think, I guess this has been a theme I've been saying throughout, but I just listen to your community. I think right now, yeah, I think we all want to have the answers, but I don't think anybody really has the answers. And so I think listen to your community and respond to their needs is really the best thing we can be doing right now. We're really seeing that as a role we can play, and something that when we're on the other side of this, our constituents are going to appreciate us having done. So that's, yeah.
Fantastic. Jenny, in April.
I mean, one thing I think about, you know, and in the letter our CEO wrote, it talks about there being hope and collaboration and coming together, and, you know, just really the sense of community that's emerged, even though by video chat in a lot of cases or by telephone. It's really there's hope within that coming together. And then on a, you know, from a more nuts and bolts standpoint, we're thinking about things like, wow, isn't this a great opportunity to do a lot of data integrity work, you know, to make our database stronger than ever, to tackle those projects that in other years we've had great ideas about but haven't had the time. So, you know, think about how you might be creative with this time, even from a, you know, an operations improvement standpoint.
Yeah, I think for us, it really is stay focused on the mission. You know, we're here supporting a hospital. What can we continue to do that? And be fluid and be agile in everything that you're coming up against in the next while.
Awesome. Those are some amazing tips. Thank you so much. And I just want to end with saying that this webinar has been organized by my company, which is CauseVox, a digital fundraising platform for nonprofits. All of our speakers today are CauseVox users and customers, hopefully happy ones, I would anticipate. So if you're looking to do more digital fundraising, whether it be peer-to-peer fundraising, crowdfunding pages, or even having a digital marketing focused online donation form, especially in this time, feel free to contact us, causevox.com. We'll be happy to help with a one-on-one demo, or to even set you up with a completely free account, 100% free, no monthly fees, no platform fees. So happy to help. So check us out, causevox.com. A few housekeeping items too, is that we will send out this recording later this afternoon. You will get it. Feel free to share it with your colleagues. Feel free to watch it on 2x speed. Whatever you want to do with it is yours to keep. There's no charge. Now, once again, I want to thank all of our speakers. Kelly, thank you so much for your time today. Jenny, thank you so much for your time. April, good to see you again. Thank you so much for your time. And Judith, Really appreciate all of your insights from the Queensway Carleton Hospital. Thank you so much, everybody. And y'all stay safe and wash your hands.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.